Hi, I'm Bree Johnson. We're going to do a Psoas Release tutorial. For many people, we've got chronically tight, tired psoas muscles, and this is a beautiful way to set up yourself, your nervous system, your psoas muscles for a deeper letting go, a deeper release. It's very soothing. I teach this a lot to my clients and my students and for myself as well. The psoas muscles are two muscles that are attached on either side of your lumbar spine. They run across the front of the pelvis, and then the bottom lower attachment is to the lesser trochanter of your femur bones. Which means if these muscles are tight, it's going to show up as tension in a lot of other areas of the body. And you can assess how tight they are for you and your body by lying on the ground and flat on the ground and seeing what part of your body touches the floor or not. So when you lie down, it'll show up differently in each of us, but it's not uncommon to have the ribs lifted up toward the ceiling like this. So if you put your hand underneath your back, not your lower back, but right where your front of your rib cage is here, and if you went around the back, and if they were lifted, if that part was lifted off the floor, that's a good idea or a good indication that the psoas muscles are a little bit on the tight side. Also, as well, you might notice that if your knees are lifted off the floor or your hamstrings are not touching, then the lower attachments of the psoas could be tight. And it will be different for everybody. Some of us will find the upper part more tight, the lower part more tight, or even one side's a little bit different than the other. So this is a good test, a good indication to find out what is happening in your psoas muscles. You might also notice that your head is in a lot of flexion as well, which means your chin's higher than your forehead, and which also would indicate that the rib cage is lifted off the ground, which is illustrating some tension in the core. So we remedy that through the psoas release. I recommend using a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, I recommend a whole bunch of pillows, couch cushions, something firm enough that it can support you in the release here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use two bolsters because I find this one works, but it's a little bit thin because I've used it so much. So I like to double up the bolsters. And I'm going to put two of them on top of each other like so. So I'm going to flip that over. Good, and then I have another little pillow for my head. Now when you go down into the release, you want to start just by checking out to see where your hamstrings are. So sitting up, you'll usually have your hamstrings right on the floor. And then you're going to start to walk your hands back, and you'll notice that there'll be a point where your hamstrings, your legs might lift up off the ground like we did in the moment ago in the assessment, which is an indication. The moment your hamstrings start to lift up off the floor, that's going to indicate that's where you want to stop. That's where you want to be bolstered. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go this high for my psoas release here. And it's a little bit different. Some of us might have done this before where you bolster your entire spine on your back. And we're going to do the opposite of that. What we want to do is bolstering right in between the shoulder blades. So right in the middle of your thoracic spine. Don't let the edge of the bolster be any lower than the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, because we want to facilitate a dropping. We want to facilitate a release for the deeper core muscles here, which means we support the upper back, support the bolster in between the shoulder blades. I'm going to take my pillow now, support the head, and you'll see, you'll do little adjustments. I recommend seeing what feels right for you. You want to have that space. Make sure you have that space between your rib cage and the floor. The higher the bolster, the better, because then you can anchor your hamstrings down, which means we're going to get that truer, deeper psoas release position. The head is supported enough that you can relax. Take a big, deep breath in and out. And you might find in your body that even in this position, your ribs are still up like this. And that's okay. That's telling us that this is a place that the psoas needs to relax. So over time, even maybe in the first time that you do this, you might notice that the rib cage starts to soften down, soften down, soften down. You can do this watching. I'll sit. This is a position that I usually watch a movie in because I know it just feels so good for my body. It's a position that You can just relax, spend some time breathing, listening to quiet music, whatever helps to set up you and your nervous system to facilitate that release feeling. You can stay for 5 minutes, you can stay for 10 minutes, as long as it feels good. Wrap yourself in blankets and just quietly breathe. Enjoy.